Today, let's look and focus keenly on Kenya's presidential limousine and motorbikes used by his security to ensure the president is protected. These are some of the facts that many don't know about this famous presidential Mercedes-Benz limousine. First, this is called Mercedes-Benz S600L, and it is worth Kenya shilling 30 million. It was first acquired in 2002 to be used by the then President Mwai Kibaki. He became the first president known in the public to use this car. It is an armored car with ballistic protection standards level 7B7, which is the highest protection recommendable for presidential vehicles. This car is reinforced in such a way that it could resist fire from high-caliber weapons with a velocity of 820 meters per second and energy of over 3,200 joules. Those who did physics in high school can understand well what this means. Anyway, in simple terms, this means over twice the speed and impact of a revolver. It is also said this type of a car with B7 armoring level can also withstand heavy artillery and even explosions assault. It has ability to travel at high speed for many kilometers on flat tires. It has safety wheel shielding which enables it to drive at high speed, driving with no risk of losing control or maneuverability even after puncture. The limo has the capability of resisting long-range ballistic attack from a NATO 7.62 caliber impact at the vortices of a 12.5 cm side equilateral triangle fired from any direction and distance. It has emergency sensors that in case of an accident, the accident avoidance systems automatically get activated. This car can also withstand grenade attacks. Uhuru was the second president to use this car, which is still being used by the 5th President William Ruto. Not even his deputy is allowed to use this car. Also, something to note is that when president makes a tour to up country, all others escort vehicles travel by road, but this limo gets ferried on air by military cargo chopper or SGR to coast at a very tight security. Such travels require adequate logistic plannings to ensure the president's trip is not interrupted. The president limo and his fleet of vehicles to be used during such trips have to be moved early. A former presidential escort officer intimated to NEWSLIFE TV that whenever the president travels to say Mombasa by air, his escort vehicles travel by road, save for his special car that is transported at tight security via the standard gauge railway. Let me quote what he said. The presidential limousine is special and doesn't travel by road to coast. It is usually transported discreetly as cargo on the SGR. Other cars such as the Toyota Land Cruisers and escort vehicles travel by road. His Toyota Land Cruiser's coat of arms is usually masked unless he is in the car. Sometimes other road users may think it is a governor or other government official. But a presidential limousine is too conspicuous to travel to Mombasa by road, the ex-GSU officer disclosed. Inside the State House garage lies a Mercedes Maybach S600 Pullman guard, which is often used for ceremonies. Other times, President prefers to use the 4x4 vehicles, which are adapted to access remote areas of the country as opposed to the limo, which is limited to tarmac roads. The head of state has more than 300 specially trained officers at his disposal who work in shift to avoid exhaustion, especially when he has tightly packed schedule like witnessed in recent days. Vehicles acquired by State House over time are also not disposed of, but are instead kept safely for use should need arise. On the motorbike side, these escort bikes are specially made for combat and are entitled to protect the president at any cost. They are a BMW in make, and Kenya government set aside Kenya shilling 150 million to buy them. That shows how expensive they are. Each motorbike is estimated to cost a little over 4 million Kenyan shillings. The riders are not ordinary bikers as they are specially trained in war, mainly used to clear presidential way. They are also armed with small arms such as revolvers and self-loading pistols. They are all trained and are part of the escort team. However, they have more responsibilities such as pace setting. They dictate how fast the motorcade can be driven at one point and how slow at another. Although all of the units are trained on this, and they have stipulated speed they need to drive at, the bikes are armored too like all the presidential cars and are also modified per the security team requirement.
mweupe, ishara kwamba anga letu liko shwari. Tuwape makofi marubani wetu tafadhali. Kikundi cha pili, Mheshimiwa Rais, ni ndege aina ya F5. Mheshimiwa Rais, na tuwape makofi tafadhali marubani wetu. Ndege aina ya F5. Ndege hizi kwa sasa zikiwa kwa kasi kabisa. Ndege hii ikituonyesha onyesho hilo, tupe bado makofi. Anaenda juu kabisa ndani, kisha kurudi analala, kisha anaruka flight position na kuelekea mbele, akituonyesha kwa maidani huyo anaenda juu kabisa, akitupa mizunguko ya juu, kisha analala na kurudi mahali ametoka. Kisha mizunguko ya kushoto kwa maridadi. Tupe makofi mbali huyo tafadhali. Makofi marubani wetu wanajitenga kila mmoja kwenda upande wake. Ndege ya kati ikala chali na kurudi mahali imetoka. Tuwape makofi marubani zao za kazi. Ndege aina ya Puma ikiwa juu na bango linalosema hongera mashujaa. Tuwape rubani wetu makofi tafadhali.
Basi tuwape makofi mashujaa wetu pia siku hii ya leo. Asante sana mwisho.
We are equally concerned about climate change and its impact on Kenya generally and our arid and semi-arid regions in particular. We will address the effects of this phenomenon as its ravaging effects at home and abroad. Our pastoralist communities have experienced scarcity of pasture due to prolonged drought, the worst in 40 years, and 3 years of absolute rain failure. As a result, we have lost 2.5 million heads of livestock owing to this very severe drought. Rising food prices have made an already bad situation worse. Elsewhere, communities in rural and urban areas across the country are equally struggling under the weight of high food prices and shortage of water. Without a doubt, climate change is complicating our roadmap towards socio-economic transformation and achievement of sustainable development goals. As we seek short-term measures to respond to the evolving situation, I have directed that a long-term and sustainable solution to the planetary challenges be put in place. The ultimate solution includes greening our country to more than 30% of tree cover by 2032. The central role forests play in addressing the effects of climate change has become more prominent now than ever, thanks to their unparalleled capacity to absorb, store carbon, and regulate climate. Of the 59.2 million hectares land in Kenya, only 5.2 hectares are under forest cover. The remaining 54 million hectares are largely in arid and semi-arid areas. The 10 counties with the highest forest cover are Nyeri, Lamu, Vihiga, Kirinyaga, Elgeyo Marakwet, Meru, Embu, Murang'a, Kilifi, and Nyandarua. On the reverse, the 10 counties with the lowest tree cover are Marsabit, Mandera, Wajir, Isiolo, Siaya, Migori, Busia, Machakos, Taita Taveta, and Uasin Gishu. I call upon the Council of Governors to facilitate more discussion to achieve parity in tree cover by using peer-to-peer learning and exchange of information. The government will champion the transformation of forestry and rangeland restoration to support the greening of Kenya so as to combat climate change. We are at the final stages of designing a special presidential forestry and rangeland restoration program. This effort is spearheaded by the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, various experts and partners in government, UN organizations, NGOs, and the academia. The objective is to grow 5 billion trees in the next 5 years and an additional 10 billion trees by 2032. This will eventually lead to the rehabilitation and restoration of 10 million hectares in our 290 constituencies, as well as some specially selected ecosystems and water towers threatened by degradation and destruction. To achieve this ambitious plan, the government will continue to support efforts by the Kenya Forestry Research Institute, KEFRI, in high-quality seed production in their 18 seed centers across the country. Agroforestry and farming of avocados, mangoes, and macadamia will also open new value chains for our export market, creating green jobs in those sectors. I therefore urge all Kenyans to support this government's call to grow at least 15 billion trees in 10 years. To achieve this target, simple calculation shows that every Kenyan needs to grow at least 300 trees. The 50 million of us, we will be able to grow 15 billion trees. And I will tell the ministry concerned, the Ministry of Environment, to issue a small certificate for every Kenyan who completes his round of 300 trees. Our national capacity determines the extent of opportunities all Kenyans have to pursue and attain their aspirations. What I'm saying is that regardless of the type and scale of your pursuit, every contribution matters. And regardless of our walk of life, our work matters, our intentions matter, our thoughts matter, because we all matter and every hustle matters. Our Constitution, the People's Sovereign Charter, is an instrument of collective memory. It proscribes tyranny, marginalization, and oppression, provides institutional means to dismantle injustice and eradicate inequality, and gives us an opportunity to expand freedom and actualize rights. It also defines human well-being to be the reason for individual and collective action, as well as objects of the totality of our national enterprise. We are united in common endeavor with those who came before us and did so much for our country. We may define ourselves as a nation proudly standing on the foundation of the Constitution, united in pursuit of the well-being of every citizen. The principal reason for promulgating our Constitution then was to inscribe the values which animated our history of accomplishments and to project them in a manner that resonates across generations. The national values and principles of governance set out in Article 10 form the soul of this dispensation. They define the parameters of patriotism, exemplary service, selfless sacrifice, and profiles us in terms of who we are and who we ought to be individually and as a nation. We can and we must employ these values as beacons for identifying people whose contribution honor the memory of our heroes and heroines and bring greatness to our nation. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, to direct our focus on the work that each one of us does to understand how we contribute to our individual well-being as well as that of our communities and our nation. It is this understanding we must take into account that individuals make up the greater national family and that Kenya's future stature and splendor is always greater than the sum total of our individual efforts or community endeavors. I congratulate every citizen for their part in ensuring that the last general election was peaceful. I know of attempts at division, disunity, confusion, and even some who did everything in their power to entice and pressure our people to engage in criminal activity. But I also know that despite a competitive campaign period characterized by intense rivalry, Kenyans resolved in unison to remain peaceful, united, and compassionate. We set a new standard for ourselves: issue-based campaigns, transparent elections, and a peaceful outcome.